connect with you guys. Always such a pleasure to hear where you guys are calling in from. And
Hey, Geraldine.
in our call today,
Coming in
anybody
from
new to Self Love Sunday? Hello, Claudia.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, welcome.
Hello, Geraldine.
Welcome.
Debbie here from
Boy,
Scotland.
Hello.
Hello, everyone from
Salish
Hungary.
Seal, Jessica Ann, so good to see you. Lovely.
Everyone.
Yeah, so great to see you.
Hi,
Monica
Geraldine.
from Colorado. Awesome.
Hi, Geraldine from Mexico. Iola here.
Hello, Iola. Great to see you.
At the beginning of some major changes
We have something
that were
playing
coming
here.
in this month. So
Hello, Geraldine from Southern California.
Hi, how are you? Great to see you, Charles.
Good to see you.
No, yes.
Hi, Geraldine. Vicky from Italy.
Hi, Vicky. Italy.
Hi.
Italy.
Hi, Geraldine. Is this
Oh.
working? It's on my phone.
Yes.
Hi, I made it for once. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so glad you guys made it. Thank you so much for joining me. What a wonderful time to connect with you guys. So we are doing our self-love Sundays, and we are talking about integrating
you guys have had
the
an
laws of the
amazing day.
universe. By the way, I keep talking. Okay, where's our live? Let me find our live so I know where we're at. And say hello to
And,
everybody on
talking about
YouTube. Hello, Daria, Marielena, Marie Hazar Habib. So wonderful to see you guys. Welcome. I'm going to go ahead and share this live. And today we are talking about the law of karma, the law of cause and effect. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the under laws of those and the processes of how those cause and effect come to be. It's very interesting. And some of these layers of how things come into karma are really important to understand, so you understand how you're actually creating and how you're affecting your life, how you are attracting things into your life. We talked about the law of attraction, and all of the laws that we talked about up until now are proceeding to this law because they are all required understanding in order to understand the law of cause and effect. Alexander Davis, welcome. Lee, great to see you. Tanja, welcome. So great to see you guys. All right, so let's get started. Talking about the law of karma. Now, we know karma to be cause and effect, in that we are looking at how things come to be, how they manifest into the form as a result of our intention and our co-creation. So when we talk about cause and effect, what we really want to understand is how are we creating? Because this law governs manifestation, okay? So in order to understand manifestation, you need to understand this law. And manifestation, as we are moving and evolving, things are speeding up in terms of vibrational frequency collectively, meaning that we are also creating quicker. We are manifesting, we are bringing into the form quicker. And interdimensionally, we are creating fast as well, incredibly fast. So there is a process to how creation is evolving. We manifest in the thought form first, and the thought form has repercussions. There are side effects to how each thought is creating and the side effects of that. So we create in many different ways. We are creating from our thoughts. We are creating from our emotions. We are creating from our subconscious thoughts, which are actually the most powerful, as you will learn today. Essentially, the core of our co-creation is in the subconscious thoughts. And it's an entire mechanism in the body that creates subconscious programs, creating a force field of vibrational frequency that brings into manifestation what we're going to be experiencing. And of course, we are creating with our actions. And the creation of our actions is essentially the implementation of our intentions, our emotions. The emotions are essentially hand in hand the output of energy, which creates a charge that is input into the experiences that we are having. And because we are bioelectrical, the co-creation that we actually intend and contribute to the collective is very much a bioelectrical process. Okay, so cause and effect begins in the organism of the physical body through a bioelectrical charge. And that bioelectrical charge is the emotions that is created. So every thought that you feel is a vibrational frequency that then translates into a biochemical response, which is at the same simultaneous time an emotion that is categorized, okay? And that subconscious emotion essentially is then put out as this charge, because it creates this conduit conduit energy that is created by the transduction of the biochemical process and the emotional subconscious intention. So these two are meeting in order to manifest into a physical action. And essentially, the way that our thoughts affect reality, there is a lag time in this world that we are experiencing in the process of creation and counter creation. Because in the same way that we create and manifest beautiful things in our life, those intentions and those electromagnetic expressions are also creating counter creations. Counter creations is also a creation. It is just what we do that is in resistance or the inversion of nature eventually, okay? And the way that that actually looks in the body is that we are either vibrating in a centripetal manner or a centrifugal manner, as I've mentioned before. The more congruency there is between the thoughts, the emotions, and the actions, the more centripetal you become. This is really important because in this law of cause and effect of karmic actions, the way that karma actually manifests is from all of the processes, sometimes prior to the action, actually always prior to the action. So we are manifesting and creating in this morphogenetic field through our bioelectric expression in order to create a magnetic pool, a draw to people, places, and things that match our vibrational frequency. That's pretty huge. And so when we encounter experiences that are overwhelming, that are traumatic, that are challenging for us, we need to meditate, take a look, and take a step back and begin to observe the steps leading up to those experiences. Primarily, the thoughts that you were having leading up to those experiences and the emotions that you were having, because those are the ones that bring you in alignment with what you're going to be experiencing. Okay, so let's take a look really briefly at a little PowerPoint to get a visual as to what we're talking about here today. And we're going to jump right. So actually, oh yeah, here we go. All right, so the law of cause and effect. We're going to go over a couple points that I want to focus on when it comes to karma, okay? First of all, we are what we experience. What you attract, you are. So this is really, really important because this essentially is looking at the manifestation energies that bring into manifestation the things that we're experiencing. Your subconscious programs define your experience. So what does this mean? If somewhere in your subconscious mind, you have programs that you are unworthy, that you are not good enough, programs that we are lonely, programs that we are abandoned, all of these programs have an effect in this holographic reality. And remember that everything that you experience, you are experiencing within your field, within your universe, which you are constantly working on co-creating. there is a power behind that. The power behind that is that you can change things. Once you become aware of them, you can change them. And the power of change and transformation is really allowing every human to tap in, to begin to tap in to what it is having free will. Now, we talked about free will earlier, earlier in our challenge, and we talked about how in reality, we are so deeply interconnected with so many systems that we don't really embody free will unless we understand that we have it. Okay? And we can't really understand that we have it if all we are doing in a state of unconscious repetition, we are just repeating patterns. And what are those patterns that we are repeating? Patterns that we are repeating are essentially everything that we are running that makes up our entire data bank of DNA. Ancestral history, okay, the influence of the matrix as it's been recorded within our DNA, which we are expressing, and we play out those programs. What else influences your creation ability? The programs that were created from the womb, your experience in the womb until the age of 7. Those are the main filters of perception that make up your subconscious mind. So for those of you that are on a healing journey, that are trying to heal traumas, that are trying to change perceptions of helplessness, all of these programs of emotions that are heavy, we need to take a look at the first 7 years of our lives to understand the influence that played a role in creating these perceptions. Because chances are the perceptions that were created are profound perceptions of survival, okay? And how we choose to survive is really what is creating our experience. If we are deeply seated with programs of survival, it's very difficult for the human to be able to break patterns of suffering. And it's really difficult for them to change their life because they feel stuck and they simply don't have the tools in their toolbox to make those changes. What are the tools? I see this every day in my sessions. We have a disconnect between mind, body, and emotion. Because of the level of trauma that we have received since we're children, whether it's mom saying be quiet or don't talk or stay still or don't move, or your imagination is just an imagination, what you're experiencing isn't real. All of those experiences are contributing to the way that we express and expand our field. When we have a contracted field due to trauma over time, the amount of source connection becomes thinner and thinner. Your source cord becomes thinner and thinner. And the source cord is actually something that must be cultivated through our physical bodies, okay? Our source cord that connects us to source is essentially opening the channel ways through the physical body that allow us to connect with the greater whole. This is the greater truth of the collective. The more we open and clear the debris in our bodies, in our multidimensional bodies of traumas and belief systems that are limiting belief systems that are based on temporary truths, we cannot align with these greater systems of truth. And one of the most powerful ways to heal the body is to come into absolute authenticity. Authenticity in a point where we are absolutely raw and real about everything that we feel and why we feel it, in order to get very clear, to have clarity about who you are and why you are the way that you are. This clarity is essential to this law of cause and effect. Until that clarity is taking place in your life, you won't understand why the things that are happening to you in your life are happening. And this is very profound. The people that have, we talked about the law of accident. Again, it's a vibrational frequency. When we drop a certain level of vibrational frequency lower than we ever have before, there will be a shock, an awakening to the organism, for the organism to wake up consciously. And that waking up of consciousness is an invitation to reconnect to your source. Okay, so essentially what we want to understand is opening these channel ways to allow our connection to source, to be able to even see ourselves not as separate from the collective, requires a reunification, an internal reunification. The internal reunification is the ability to accept all the shadows that are within our subconscious programming in order to transmute them, which means integrate them, number one, and essentially to embody them. Okay, so how do we embody this cause and effect? Now let's talk about resistance. What happens with resistance? Now there's an element that happens as soon as you begin to process this process of awareness, of absolute authenticity and truth. In fact, it was the question of love that led me into seeking truth. And when you search for truth, now you really go down many rabbit holes. You will go down many rabbit holes, uncovering many layers of illusion of our reality. Not only illusions of yourself, which is actually what we're going to talk about here, because what ends up happening is that because we have an intelligence to this body to preserve and to maintain safety, the illusion of safety in the body, we hold on very tightly to behavioral patterns that are familiar. And a lot of times these familiar behavioral patterns are actually things that are causing us suffering. They are maintaining us in these programs of suffering. So these programs of suffering are the ones that actually attract your next partnership, your next career, the colleague at work that triggers that part of you that is wounded. The invitation, and this is the beauty of this universe, this multiverse that we live in, because we live in this interconnected system, the organism is designed to heal itself. It is a self-regenerating organism. And how do you regenerate an organism? You have to get the infection out. You have to get all of that dirty dirt out of the wound so that the wound can heal. And so these laws of the universe are governing all organisms to allow the opportunity for those organisms to return back to that wholeness, to integrate back into that health, into that highest optimum expression of existence. And the wonderful thing about embodying that high octave expression of existence is that you now can begin to play in this matrix, which means that you can now create. Anytime before that, my love, in the law of cause and effect, in karma, all we're doing is we are repeating patterns of karma that have been inherited to us, and we are repeating our own patterns of karma over and over again. It is the dream state. That is the dormant state of hypnosis. In hypnotherapy, we repeat things over and over again to allow the brain to go deep into the subconscious mind, triggering confusion, mixing up those neural pathways, and then dropping deeper into subconscious mind. This is how the matrix operates in creating dormant states of humanity as well. So once we're aware of that, we have to understand that the comfort states of suffering that we have now become accustomed to, we have to change them, okay? So let's talk about the breakdown of karma. Let's talk first about ancestral karmas, okay? So everything is interconnected. We know that. We talked about that earlier in our challenge. But essentially, because everything is interconnected, so are the laws of cause and effect. In fact, one of the most powerful realizations that I had in my journey of uncovering this law of cause and effect was understanding how every human is a product of the behavior of their environment, of their surroundings. So in the example, healing, let's say, mother-father wounds, taking a look at the behavior of parents, for example, their influence on us when we are being raised. The parent only knows and can only hold space and give love to the level that they have ever received it, that they have ever been familiar with it. And it is impossible for us to expect something different from them when they simply don't have the awareness. And this is something that is the doorway of compassion for humanity and the entryway into unity consciousness. Because when we begin to understand that, what essentially occurs is that you begin to become compassionate for humans that are not able to move outside of their way of thinking. You understand their suffering because you as well know that when you harm someone else, you understand your limitations. In that moment, it was a preservation of the self, and any behaviors that come from these preservations cause suffering to others as well as yourself. So these basic patterns are cyclical patterns of suffering that we are causing. And so what we want to take a look at now is the ancestral influence of that, basically. Okay, so let's talk about this example of the parent. All of you have done parent healing, at least at some point in your life, right? Because we understand the major influence that continues to have in our life. And I see it with many and most of my adult clients. They are still playing out patterns that their parents were playing out. So for example, if there was a father that was feeling unworthy, or that he couldn't do more or expand more, blocking his dreams, changing his life, sacrifice for the family, it turns out that the child is also becoming an expression of that. So that child grows up to be an adult, and then they begin to live that out as well, that pattern. And for some people, it's very difficult to recognize these patterns because, again, we believe, oh no, I'm very different from my parent. I'm very different from what they did. I have evolved. I have waken up consciousness. I'm a different person. But actually, subconsciously, because all they knew as a child was that survival mechanism, it's deeply embedded in the makeup of who they are. So these are the subconscious programs that then bring them into the experiences that will trigger those. Okay, trigger. And it's incredibly, I am just so amazed working with so many people, the patterns that become to surface when you notice this. So the influences of our ancestral DNA is going to be self-organized in archetypal levels of information. And archetypal levels, we'll talk about archetypes another time, but essentially in this universe, we talked about 13 main dimensional planes from which we are made up of, 13 dimensional layers that are mainly navigating the matrix, this holographic in the 3-dimensional plane. The 13 dimensional layers are experiencing 3-dimensional hologram. And those 3-dimensional layers are all archetypal. They are all vibrational frequencies. The chakra system, the color ranges of vibrational frequency, emotional ranges, all translate into these archetypal containers. So we are cycling through these archetypal containers, and we do it intergenerationally, we do it collectively, and we do it within our own lifespan. We have the ability of accessing these archetypal aspects of ourselves. So karma, the law of karma, these cause and effect cycles are always going to be affected by these archetypal containers. And our job, essentially, in the present moment, being fully connected to the moment, is to become aware of the archetype that we're playing out at any given time in order to wake up consciousness. Why? because in order to become one, in order to open the channel to allow source, infinite potential, to anchor into the body, we need to come into a 0 point. And the 0 point does not embody any one of those archetypal containers. It is the integration of all of them. All of those containers is when we embody any one of them at any given time, we are out of balance because our perception is very specifically filtered at that time. And this is also the cause and effect laws, and I'm going to take you into even deeper things that really participate in our co-creation, is essentially our emotional states and the information that feeds our emotions, which essentially is how we are balancing the feminine and masculine energy. These archetypes, the archetypes are essentially manifestations of different levels of wounding of either the feminine or the masculine. Okay, so for example, okay, a wounded masculine becomes very confrontational. They have an abuse of power, they're dominant, they are aggressive. So what happened here when we see this, the wounded masculine energy, there are two main elements that took place in this individual's life. They didn't have the nurturing protection from the mother that allowed them to feel safe and protected. And they didn't have the grounding support and presence of the father in order to hold space for a container for anger or to learn how to process anger. So what's very interesting about this is that this karmic program, this now becomes a karmic program. And remember, you are the creator of the karmic program that runs down your family lineage. This is really important because when you become aware of this, now you know what you're going to be inheriting into your child. Okay, so this program of the wounded masculine now manifests into this individual that develops into a person that is always, confrontational, always in a state of dominance. And what they attract is the same role that caused the trauma from the father and the mother. They're going to attract that in, let's say, their partner, or let's say their boss at work. Okay, it will trigger this wounding where they will have to play out the confrontation over and over and over again. And I hear this time and time again in my sessions. I don't know why. Every job I get, it's the same story. Every partner I get, it's the same problem, right? You don't know why? We need to review. We need to understand our participation. And this is one of the most important parts of the cause and effect karma, how we are co-creating, because this is influencing something else, right? Because the patterns that we are continuing to repeat over and over again is the strengthening of ancestral trauma generationally. Your DNA is a makeup of this ancestral information. And when you begin to wake up consciousness and you begin to understand that you are more and you are experiencing not just in the physical, but in the non-physical, in dream time, you are accessing past lives, future lives, interdimensional aspects of yourself. Your vibrational frequency is going to also be a match to those experiences. It's also going to create a cap to your spiritual evolution and ascension. And the reason why this is incredibly important is because, especially now that the veils have been thinning, and we talked about this yesterday in the course, those of you that came to the course, we essentially, for those of you that weren't there, it was a class on negative ET contact and how to transcend. But of course, we talk really deep into different elements of interdimensional expression, which are all part of ourselves. Okay, so essentially we access this in dream time, and we are more active in dream time than we are in waking state. That's the thing. And how this affects your life is because it attracts into your next life, into your next generations, and into your children, the reinforcement of these programs that you are repeating in your current life. So we remember that because everything is one, your actions are affecting the collective. Your actions and your thoughts are collecting your immediate ancestral lineage and the potential progression of that lineage. And they're also affecting the collective, the human race. And of course, interdimensionally, all of the fractals of your cell that are existing, you are also affecting those. So to break these patterns is to wake up consciousness. And we are able to make changes in our lives. You become the master of your life if and when you stop repeating those programs, but only when you become aware of them. Okay, so the karma is happening instantaneously in many dimensional layers, because our thoughts are, because most of us are not in the present moment, our thoughts are accumulating interdimensional data in our holographic field. Understand that. Because you're not in the present moment, all of those little running mindless thoughts that you have are rooted in emotions. And you don't usually have that awareness until you really sit with that information. And that's why being absolutely aware of your thoughts and what you're saying is important. Because a lot of times humans, we speak out things. Sometimes we just go with the flow, like we go in groups of family and friends, and we just go with the flow in order to have these silly, mindless conversations. But we don't really realize the effect that they have on our subconscious mind. The intention that you feel when you are having that mindless conversation, if your emotions are insecurity or trying to look good in front of the group, or trying to fit in, or trying not to get ostracized from the groups or from the whole, that intention and that desperate need for connection is actually what will manifest. And the way that that will be felt vibrationally is that it'll be a really heavy, imbalanced feminine or masculine expression. And we actually push away people even more. Okay, so this is now another level of manifestation and cause and effect. We are doing it energetically. Okay, so the way that cause and effect also functions interdimensionally is through our energy. Our energy becomes the major communicator of information. And most of the communication that we're doing in our world is not through our eyes, it's through the collective 5 senses and through the magnetic field of our body. That is actually what's inputting into the hologram for creation. So not a single person that you meet is not in resonance with some part of you. That's another thing that's really important about this law. Okay, not a single person that you meet is not in resonance with you. Everyone that you meet is in resonance with you. And what will happen is, let me explain mirrors, right? How do mirrors work? Essentially, if our subconscious program is that we are unworthy, I'm just using this example because it's quite common, this program of unworthiness. We will manifest experiences that trigger that emotion because you are vibrating at unworthiness. You think about it all the time, you manifest it, and you express it energetically. So literally it becomes a magnet. And remember, the 2 ways that our body is moving, centripetal and centrifugal, are how we attract things. When you are moving in a centripetal manner, you become a force field of attraction. And because the centripetal is in a 0 point, you can intend what you want to attract. Different thing, completely different state of being. Okay, when you are in a centrifugal mode of co-creation, you become a magnetic force field for everything that you are in that moment at that vibrational frequency, because it's a cap to the level at which you are vibrating. So this is how we essentially limit how we are manifesting and co-creating in this universe. Let me come over here. Okay. So another element within this within the fields of our body that are creating, is that the more we come into thought forms in which our energy is contracted in a centrifugal manner, we become parasitic. Okay, so this is the other part of it. Whether you are a creator or a parasite, and please understand that I'm talking about what parasitism is essentially, is an individual that forgets their power as infinite potential, is disconnected from source, and requires from the external to feed something within them, whatever it is. There is no okay thing. And the reason why I'm telling you this, because you and I are seekers, and we are on the journey of really truly understanding the embodiment of our source. Okay, what you will discover through this journey is that the deeper you see yourself and you understand your thoughts and your emotions, you will understand the intentions behind everything you do. There won't be a random thing. There is no random thing, because this universe is self-organized intelligence. And that self-organized intelligence is order and balance and harmony. So humanity is programmed to be very kind of go with the flow. And this is a very powerful side effect of social engineering, because we see it in our environment, and it's kind of grown into the society and the societal norms of interaction, of conversation, right? In business school, we're taught, oh, to be open and converse and have certain conversations, have 3 main topics that you mainly talk about. And, you know, all of these structures that we are embedded in for behavior. It's influenced by culture. It's influenced by religion. It's by financial or economic status. And of course, social engineering through how much influence you have from your entertainment industry. That is always, this is very interesting when you watch sitcoms. The kind of dialogue that they have is always, it's supposed to be funny, but there's always someone that is like putting someone else down, or making fun of something, or being really smart about something. This is deeply ingrained in us. And in school, when we grow up, this is also the kind of environment that we grow up in. In addition to not being able to have a mother-father figure that holds sacred space for reconnection with the self, we experience this further separation in our societal interactions. So all of these programs, essentially as a collective, feed into this illusion of separation, and it is very powerfully expressed in our bodies. Okay, so our bodies end up looking shattered. Our fields, our energetic fields, have holes in them because those holes are filled with the intention and the direction of our energy, which is being driven in that direction. Some random thought comes in, our energy goes there, we create a cord, we become entangled, and therefore the depletion of our energy now takes place. Okay, so this is why bodies become ill, because we don't have that balancing in the physical body. And can you imagine the impact of your physical body? Because your morphogenetic field, especially of the heart, is the most powerful. The heart chakra is the most powerful of your whole body. But how many of you cultivate heart chakra? How many of you cultivate the reconnection to yourself? You see, the heart chakra manages self-worth, manages coherence. Two main things. Are you cultivating that reconnection? Are you authentic and meeting your needs at every moment? Are you aware of your needs, or are you in survival? And essentially, in order to embody coherence, we need to be congruent: mind, body, actions, mind, emotion. Okay, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions have to be congruent. And that congruency can be very difficult to embody for many of us, because we are so used to having patterns of behaviors, not only with members of our family, but also, you know, in general. Okay, let me come into a couple questions before I go even deeper. Okay, Nicoela, you asked, which way are these spins traveling? So essentially, I have mentioned before that your body, each one of your chakras will be spinning at any direction that they need to be spinning in order to create harmony in your body. Okay, so if your chakra is spinning in a really slow manner, essentially the way energy flows to the body, if you didn't have chakras, you would dissolve. So essentially the chakras are what is reuniting and reintegrating this organism, because you are a vortex of energy. You are made up of vortices, and these vortices have runways, pathways in which they braid through the body in order to create the form from the morphogenetic field that is being created. So each one of the chakras essentially is alternating its spin in order to maintain harmony in the body. When we are sick, when we are out of balance and the lower chakras become stagnant, most of us have the back three chakras completely blocked, the lower back three chakras. Usually it's the suppression, because we are not in the present moment. Our emotions become suppressed and we don't acknowledge them, so they become stored in the body. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday, how we create really, really thick cords in our body. Cords are the reinforcement of thought patterns in any certain direction, okay, any one direction. So in order to spin them correctly, you need to be in tune with your body. And there is no right or wrong way, because every human is evolving at a different pace. And you need to bring your chakras into a balanced, harmonious spin. That's essentially what it is. So take a look and see the pathways of energy that move through the body are always alternating in order to create a vortex spin in your body that then create the toroidal field. Okay. So I invite you to take a look at that, because it then creates your Merkaba, or any of your sacred geometry that you are then tuning into. Let me come into what's the connection between karma and dharma, or how are they related? Okay, so that's basically the next part of the conversation. Okay, what we want to look at essentially is creator states. Let's come back to that. Okay. Bear with me one moment. I'm going to find my slide here. Okay, so creator states define how we are co-creating in this realm. And the difference between this karma, well, what karma means is simply cause and effect. One moment, someone's having a hard time coming in the room. Okay. Karma is cause and effect, everything that is happening in this hologram and how we are experiencing. Dharma is actually the higher law, and it's actually the laws that you and I are talking about here. It refers to the self-organizing order of things. Okay, so we believe in karma as being, you do something bad to someone and that bad thing will come back to you. Well, we are creating our own reality. That's actually the true definition of karma. You are creating your reality, and what you think in your subconscious mind, you essentially become what you think you are. What you are is what you experience. What you are is what you experience. That is actually what the karma means. Okay, so this concept of attracting what you are is based on the subconscious mind of creation. So if our way that we think is separation, if we are in constant state of no God, false gods and things, material attachments, we will always be in survival, because essentially who our God is anything material, anything external to us. So of course we're going to be surviving. There is no source that sustains this organism in a state of well-being. We have no trust in that. We are severed from that. So the next level is the protection. So we think that we are being judged, being harmed. Someone is always doing something to us. Someone is always hurting us, affecting us. So we need to be in constant states of protection. Okay, and notice that these creator states are exactly in alignment with your chakra information, as well as archetype expressions. I'll go ahead and mute you there. Okay, so these creator states, essentially, the higher we go up this level of creation, the more we are meeting and we are playing by the universal laws, which is where we talk about Dharma. Okay, when we come closer and more in alignment with nature, with the natural harmonious balance of the all, we are no longer in resistance. We are in absolute authenticity, and we are congruent in our thoughts, in our emotions, and our actions. That's when you start aligning with nature. You start aligning with the frequency of the earth, and you start aligning with the frequency of the collective. And each one of those has different levels. When you align with the frequency of the earth, there will be parts that you need to heal of your ancestral karma. So once you integrate your daily karma that you're constantly co-creating, you have to break up your ancestral karma. And all this healing work is very cyclical. Okay. And the third part is essentially, as you come into higher interdimensional awareness, you have to clear up your interdimensional karma, what you are agreeing to and creating unconsciously in your dream state. This is where people have traumatizing contact experiences. This is where people have, nightmares or terrible dreams, all of which are part, and they are reflections of these levels of creation. So the higher and higher you go, you begin to transcend these influences of cosmic bodies, including your astrological signs for those that prescribe to those beliefs. They are the archetypes in a way that I'm talking about. They're archetypal organizations of information. So we transcend our astrological signs, we transcend archetypes, and you begin to dissolve the personality, you begin to dissolve the ego that now reunites with its source. So you embody that oneness. And when you embody that oneness, this is where you can experience the ebb and flow of creation. And that is essentially what Dharma is referring to. Dharma is specific to the Hinduism belief systems. but it's widely known now, right? We know that in our everyday culture. Very good. Can I change the pattern of my children following destructive patterns when I move out of survival? Can I change the patterns of my children following destructive patterns when I move out of survival? Absolutely. And I will give you a couple examples, but essentially with our children, when I work with parents that are having issues with their children, and we begin to cut cords, and we're going to do a meditation right now in a second in order to understand how to work with our karma. It's one of my most powerful meditations. Okay, so because we live in an interconnected system, our subconscious mind is attracting the connections that we are interconnected with. Epigenetically, your DNA is being programmed by your surroundings. Your interaction with your surroundings dictate the information that makes up your body, and vice versa. Your thoughts align you with the environment and the things that you come in contact with. You see that profound interconnectedness? It's really powerful. So what happens in these concepts of cords is that the cords are connecting us to other people that we are throwing energy back and forth. Usually we are simply reinforcing patterns with people around us. Family, friends, colleagues at work, all that are perfect resonance with you. So when you begin to change your vibrational frequency, what happens is that we come into conflict, right? And so this is the thing that people need to understand. When you start breaking the patterns, you raise your vibrational frequency to another octave of karmic law. There are many vibrational frequencies of karmic law, deep unconscious states, and you are also going to experience contrast, because it's contrast, cause and effect in your higher states. Okay, but hopefully the higher you go, the more you're in alignment with nature. So the cause and effect is going to be natural things like the ebb and flow of life and death. Okay. When we are operating in survival states, the way we are managing the ebb and flow of cause and effect is that we are throwing back this energy back and forth to one another. And the karmic law is dictating that we are aligned with them. And when you break those patterns, you start to fall out of alignment with the people you're with. So your partners start to, you start to have a lot of problems separating apart. You're no longer in resonance. Somebody is doing work and they're elevating their frequency. So both partners need to come up to that same line. Coherence again. It's the same with colleagues. I hear this all the time. I go to work and my colleague is just really triggered all the time. It's just completely changed. We don't get along anymore. The challenges at work are incredibly strong. Every single day is a challenge, right? You're falling out of frequency with that environment. And this is part of the growing, you can say pains, but that it's only painful when we are in resistance. That's the thing. When we judge what we're experiencing and we're in resistance, then it's painful. So the same thing happens with family. And this is one of the hardest parts. And I will have a class on family relationships in a couple of months. But family interactions and the contractual agreements are the hardest to break, because these are ancestral programs that are so deeply seated. And when you grow so close to someone and a family member, it becomes habitual. So the moment you start to raise frequency out, these family circles maintain certain archetypal structures that are hard to break. There's a hierarchy of power, hierarchy of energy, and then of course there's the age and the maturity of each individual and the role that they play. And the question is, are you playing the role that was designed for you to fit into the coherence of the family? When you break out of that role, then things go out of balance. So what happens when you start raising your vibrational frequency is that everything that you're healing also becomes mirrored in the people around you, your children, your family members, whoever they are, your partners. And what happens is that it brings into consciousness, awareness, those things for them. That's why this existence is so fascinating, right? When you heal that parts of yourself, it starts to become aware in the other person. They begin to think, I wonder how it would be to embody this different state of being. And they start to play with that idea. So we affect our children, we affect our family profoundly. And in my sessions, when we are cutting cords, neutralizing, after truly integrating and healing a pattern, sometimes they will have family members calling them after years of being disconnected. Why? Because you neutralize the old feedback cord of vibrational frequency. Somebody was in resistance. You're in resistance to them. They're in resistance to you. There's no pathway of connection. When you neutralize that, you open the runways of information to 0 point. Once again, no judgment of any kind. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. 0 point in which you fully integrate your wounds so that you can hold space for that 0 point neutrality. And that's how you begin to heal the family ancestral cycle. The children, on the other hand, are so incredibly conscious and awake. In sessions that I work with families that are awake and constantly doing this healing work, the children are 10 times more awake. They are so quick to understand their emotions. They have it in their frequency because the parent is already doing that work. And it affects the child's subconscious mind because the parent becomes a frequency. Remember that our frequency is information. We are communicating through our frequency. So in the same way that two lovers communicate through the frequency of each other, a mother and a child, even more so. We talked about this last time. We have cells within one another, interconnection of genetic and holographic information that sustain us. So everything that the mother is doing through her DNA is affecting the child in vivo. Okay. And however, I will put one thing here that's really important, because we talked about Dharma, the universal laws, and the higher order of things. Even if you do all your healing, that child was brought into your family lineage for a reason, and it's resonance with your vibrational frequency. So your ancestral lineage has a lesson that they are learning. They are experiencing, I will say, not exactly learning. And that experience has a vibrational frequency. Your child that came in is a child that's encoded with all of the tools in interdimensionally to transcend those challenges of your ancestral lineage. And they might transcend things that you might not even be aware of yet. It's generational. The way that information and trauma passes down through the generations is also in the form of a Fibonacci sequence. Okay, the numerical expression of the Fibonacci sequence defines how trauma is inherited into each new generation. And also when you have multiple children, how it's expressed in each child differently. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, like a mathematical science of how that works. Okay. All right. So, Geraldine, I feel I am very challenged by self-trust. I feel every time I am getting forward momentum, law of accidents kicks me down. How do I learn more precise discernment with my inner voice? Okay, so in this concept of self-trust, we need to understand why we do not trust ourselves, okay? And that has to be healed. If you understand these laws of the universe, it will be easier for you to gain self-trust because you understand point blank that you are the creator of your reality, and your reality is coming from the subconscious mind. So that subconscious mind has to be reintegrated. It has to be balanced. It has to be neutralized through healing. And the number one way to build self-trust with yourself is authenticity, like raw authenticity. Okay. In which you have to see your shadows, because why people are afraid of themselves is because they don't know their shadows. They don't know them. They're not familiar with them. They don't know the depth of their own pain. They don't know the depth of their own suffering. And because suffering and pain is a product of unknown, because during this traumatic experience, we didn't have in our filing cabinet the information to be able to balance our emotions in any given circumstance. That is a record that is created. It's a reference point in your energetic field. I've mentioned this before. So when you are breaking these patterns, you literally have to go to these parts of you, the little egos that are suspended in these timelines of suffering. And what you're going to realize is that these timelines of suffering are an illusion. Because the reason why it's an illusion, it's not, illusion doesn't mean it didn't happen or it didn't exist, but the illusion means that we are only looking at it through one tiny perspective. And the problem with looking at things from one perspective is that it's immediately untrue. Okay, it's this paradox of which everything is true and everything is also not true. This is the number one part of building self-trust. We need to master the fluidity of that paradox in order to be able to move through our own limitations, our perceived limitations, in order to be able to build trust. And that kind of congruency with yourself means that now that you're aware of your emotions, now that you have mastery over your emotions don't master you, right? You now begin to be in the present moment. You're completely aware of your surroundings. You're not in la la land, you're not in survival mode and not in your body. You're not being fake and putting on airs for people around you. You are completely yourself. And that builds self-trust. The profound authenticity and the ability to see yourself in all that you are is what builds trust. It is a powerful practice. And actually how we build this is very powerful, especially when we're in groups of people, because when we're in groups of people, all of our little egos start to come out because we want to look good, we want to sound good, we want to look like we know what we're talking about, we want to, feel accepted, assured, acknowledged, and all of these little parts. These are all child woundings. The child comes out, right? That child that feels insecure and unsafe in an environment, and so we need to learn how to heal and serve and provide support for that child before we even put ourselves in those circumstances. And when you're in those circumstances, your nervous system is going to want to go back to those survival mechanisms. So you have to learn how to breathe, how to be absolutely present and okay with your survival states that you have now programmed in your body, to be able to breathe through them. Because what's going to happen is that your heart rate's going to go up and you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm going to humiliate myself. I'm not going to say what's the right thing because I'm not pretending to be this person. Okay, well, that is a healing process on its own. Okay, so what happens is that this is how you build self-trust incrementally. And that trust can never be broken. Once you build that trust, it's a foundation for your spiritual journey. It's foundation for being a human, because what happens is that your entire body starts to operate differently. Okay, when you embody that congruency, you begin to spin your body. The lack of resistance, of your own resistance to your own self, because you judge yourself, is now released. It's open. Now you can anchor source through your body, which is what you are. You are not the personality. You are not Jessica. I'm not Geraldine. This is one tiny fractal of infinite potential here to experience and nothing more. And essentially, the law of accident is manifesting because something needs to change. We are repeating a pattern and we are resistant to change, to something that is telling us has to change, and we are resistant to that. And sometimes when I work with my clients, we discover 8 years of marriage that we weren't really in love or really happy in. We discover children that we weren't really ready to have. We discover careers that, we hate and we've never liked. We did it because dad wanted it or because whatever reason. So you see, our entire life is our creation, but we don't know that. We're not taught that. So this element of self-awareness is essentially the key to liberation. And when we talk about karma, cause and effect, it is the absolute foundation to be able to co-create at these levels. Dear Geraldine, namaste. Hi, Malind. So great to see you, Malind. Is Dharma means do the right thing in any situation, please? Okay, excellent question, because it takes me to my next topic. The levels of ethical understanding when you start operating in the laws of the universe. Okay, so, and this is kind of one of the most important questions, Malind, because we always think we want to do what's right, right? So here's the thing with that. Here's the thing with doing what's right. Our understanding of right is only going to be at the level of which we have experienced unconditional love, compassion, unconditional love. And that is unconditional love for yourself and unconditional love for the whole. So first, you need to exercise doing the right thing for yourself. And I can assure you that that will be really hard. Okay? Because again, as I just mentioned, we often are in dream state for so long that the time that we wake up, we find ourselves in really hairy, complicated situations that now are going to take us to come into our authenticity and truth, whether we like it or not. That's the process of awakening. And so in the process of awakening, to do what's right can mean different things in different situations. However, there are main laws of the universe that govern these ways of being. The first one is the law of free will, in that every single human needs to experience their own evolution at their own pace, at their own free will, at their own ability. We cannot interfere with another person's integration and growth, unless, of course, that person is asking for help. So right there cuts off a lot of fat from this question of Dharma, of what it means to do right, because we have been programmed primarily by the Catholic churches and many religions to do selfless acts. And this is a program that took me a long time to break. And it was embedded deeply in my family. Don't worry about what you need. Don't worry about, your truth. You have to override that, and you have to be a smiling, helpful face, regardless of what happens. How many of you have this program in your family? Right? So these kinds of programs, for example, they seem so wonderful and true, but what happens is that we create cycles of inauthenticity and complete severe disconnect of the self. So just this tiny little example, if that human were to reconnect with themselves, were to really connect with themselves, doing the right thing in that same example would look like something completely different. Okay, so in our common understanding of that, we see a homeless person. Wow, we want to give them food. We want to take a jacket. We want to make sure that they're taken care of, give them all these things. And it feels really great at the moment, but that person ends up being homeless anyway. They don't have a home, they still don't have any support. So, the change would be to do a real infrastructure change in our society where each human isn't only self-serving, like, everything is to waste. We throw away food, we buy things in excess, and we don't understand how those actions are contributing to the homelessness or to the imbalanced life of other individuals. Okay, so this level of understanding the cause and effect of your actions goes really deeply into truth. And really what we need to actually aim for is not, because again, there is no right and wrong. And if we think of what is done right, what might seem right at that moment might actually cause harm for the person, right? So you give the person, homeless person, all these things. What do? Because it's so cold and because they're going to be there again the next 30 days, they're going to go sell that stuff and they're going to get drugs so that they can survive it. You can survive it, right? So there's so many different levels of this, but when you understand the laws of the universe, your attention is redirected to your input into the creation of the whole. So the first change has to be done in yourself. You have to be congruent. Mind, body, and action. Thoughts, emotions, and actions have to be congruent. If you don't have that congruent, then don't even try to do something quote unquote right for another human, because you won't be able to see it. And here's the next step of this. And I know that for some people that might sound severe and confusing, but let me explain. Because what happens is that when you don't know your own truth, you will never be able to activate intuitive abilities, your discernment, in order to meet another human in their authenticity and truly know what they need and they require. The only way you know other people is when you know yourself. And we end up recognizing ourselves. When you do the healing work, you know how to get out of that place. You know how to take yourself out of that suffering. And so when you see someone, you understand what it would take that human to get out of that suffering. It would require that individual a profound amount of self-love to build themselves up, to heal themselves and change their lives. And that's actually a healing that is going to contribute to the healing of the collective, not just temporary cosmetic cover-up and help. You see? So what happens in these higher ethical realms of understanding, in these higher states of creation, once again, we come more into a unity consciousness, but it's not going to look like something physical anymore. It's much higher. And we access co-creation from these levels because you become a magnetic force field of co-creation. That's what actually happens. A co-creator is someone that is choosing their actions based not only on the well-being, harmony, and balance of themselves, but the well-being and balance of the collective, of the whole. That's really the new human. It's aware of its impact on nature. It's aware on the impact of the whole. It doesn't say, oh, well, we don't have time for that right now. Let's just get this done. That's the old human that is living in survival. So this is where these new, the new human will take place in embodying a different way of seeing things. How do we determine what's right for us, Geraldine? Essentially, how we know what's right, as I mentioned, is to understand, first of all, your needs. And that sounds like something so simple, but actually, we actually have created such defense mechanisms in order to survive that it's very hard for us to actually see beyond our own lies. I discovered pretty early on that I was actually lying to myself about a lot of things. You know, I would see experiences that I had in the past, and there was a filter where I was protecting myself, noticing my contribution to those experiences. And I was thinking, oh, I didn't have anything to do in causing suffering in that situation. In fact, I was a victim in that moment, right? So as you begin to shift your perception, you begin to realize, oh, wait a minute, there's other sides to this story. What was happening with that person at the time, right? What was happening to this? How come I didn't see that? How come I didn't feel that? So as your perception broadens, and this is why DNA reprogramming is so powerful, and hypnotherapy, because you get to revisit these parts of your traumatic experiences, and your perception changes as it broadens to allow you to see truth. And what is truth? Again, it's like levels and levels of truth. It's essentially, the truth would be keep acknowledging your perception and the perception of all the participants in that experience. And then you can maybe see truth. But you have to acknowledge. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them or believe them, but you have to acknowledge the perceptions of all of those individuals. That's how we train unity consciousness. That's how we train compassion with ourselves and one another. So that ability to have a broader perspective, again, that's a creator state. Awareness, truth, energy, you begin to come into a prophet state, a seer, you get clarity. Okay, that's the healing. Only then can you manifest into the physical creation, because now you know what would be good for all of those different perspectives. You're aware of their needs. You see the children acting out within them and within yourself, and you understand how to meet the needs of those aspects. It's a pretty profound shift in the way that we expand and experience things. Okay. Excellent. So let me come into the chat, and we're going to start a meditation right now. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here. How come I am very authentic, mostly present, but yet having low self-esteem? Right. So that's a very good question. But essentially, authenticity, to come into your authenticity, if we have low self-esteem, it means that we're judging some part of our authenticity. Okay. So we want to understand, what are we judging? We also fear the judgment of others. We fear that others will reject us for either imperfections or parts of us that are not perfect. And that's what builds low self-esteem. We don't feel that we are good in our authentic, raw expression. We feel that we're afraid. And this has a lot to do with control. We have the illusion that we can control other people's reactions of us and our perceptions. And we do all kinds of things to control that by maybe changing the way we look, the way we behave, in order to fit in and be accepted. So this illusion of control essentially has to change. We have to let go of the need to control other people's perceptions of us. And when you let go of that, your attention will go directly to yourself in building and acknowledging what you need, who you are. Okay. Why, when I have healed a large percentage of my shadows, do I still have such a resistance to progressing into the new healthy thoughts, habits, and success in life? So this has to do with the neural pathways. But I'm going to share with you another tool that's incredibly powerful. And this is part of the meditation that you and I are going to be doing. So I talked about this in one of our other classes that we talked about. I believe it was the law of cycles, I believe, breaking cycles. But within our body, we have the ability of breaking karmic contracts. Okay. So what does that mean? In order to break karmic contracts, all of those influences that we have, ancestral, interdimensional, intergenerational influences that make up all of our karma, okay, and then our own actions, we can actually dissolve them, and we must dissolve them. This is helping the human remove the debris from the multidimensional body. Karma is accumulating in your field. You are a product. You are what you experience. You are what you attract, because you are the frequency that is attracting those experiences because of what you have in your space, unconsciously, subconsciously, and even conscious programs. So in this meditation today, we're going to clear our body from the debris. We're going to run energy, and we're going to break those karmic contracts in order to neutralize. And another important aspect of this meditation is that when you clear your karma daily, this is incredibly important, that you have because of the healing work that you're doing, as I mentioned, the ability to have clarity in what you are manifesting, intention in what you are co-creating. For that, you need to activate your 6th, 7th, and 8th chakra, especially the 8th chakra, because the 8th chakra is connected to the DNA of the earth from which your ancestral karma is infusing your DNA and your everyday life experiences. So you have to shift your frequency in order to not be in alignment with these things anymore. This is how people fix problems in their life, illnesses, change events that are causing suffering. We need to learn how this organism functions, and this is how it works. Okay, so let's get into our meditation. I'm going to take more questions at the end. All right, so let's stop sharing now. Okay, all right, my loves. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Let's start with our meditation. I want you all to get really nice and comfortable breathing deeply. And you're going to bring yourself into a state of complete relaxation, complete calm. Bring your body into stillness. And I want this meditation to be a little more casual than usual, because I want you to be able to do this meditation anywhere you are, okay? Remember that meditation is a way of life. It's not a compartmentalized exercise, okay? So come into your body, breathing deeply. We're going to go ahead and start by closing the first 3 chakras, shrinking the root, the sacral, solar. Go up into your heart. I want you to expand your heart chakra, activating the center of coherence, throat, and third eye. Okay, you're going to go ahead and go up into your crown. Go ahead and activate the 7th and the 8th. Be aware of your 7th and your 8th chakra. Okay, allow yourself to ground down to the center of the earth. Connect into your body. Come fully into your body. Notice how sometimes we don't want to be in our body. Why? Because we have lots of emotions going on, stressful experiences, whatever it is. Bring yourself fully in there. Let yourself feel that authentic rise, ebb and flow of whatever is rising for you in the body. Breathing. We're going to start. Go ahead and visualize from the center of the earth a powerful wave of green energy rushing up into your body, creating a vortex of energy. Go ahead and run that green life force. Imagine the energy of nature, trees, clearing your body. You're going to breathe deeply into the base of your spine. Bring total body awareness into your body. Come deeply into an awareness state of observation with yourself. Come deeply into a reconnection with yourself. Notice the waves of sensations and emotions in your body at the time. Release the muscles in your abdomen, release the muscles in your chest, in your back. Most of us, we block our connection to source through our own physical body. The contraction of these muscles are thought forms that have crystallized in the body. So when you come into a fluid, relaxed, expansive state, we are actually opening the channels of information through the body. Go ahead and bring cosmic energy from source as it comes down into the crown of the head, combining with this green earth energy as you mix green and gold energy. Breathing. Take 10% of that, send it back down to the center of the earth, eliminating out anything that doesn't serve you at this moment. Take your time to release any heavy emotions, any resistance, let it go. Okay, you'll bring your body into a neutral state, even deeper now. You're going to take 80% of green and gold, shoot it up your spine and from the crown of your head, creating a fountain of energy coating the outside of your body. Okay, so go ahead and bring back your life force from people, places, and things that are no longer in alignment with you. Bring it back. Bring back your life force. You're going to take that final 10%. I want you to infuse it into your body, into the pores, into the flesh, the muscles, the bones, down to the cellular level of your body. Breathing deeply, bringing that energy into your body now, healing the body, nourishing. This is a wonderful time to be aware of what you need in this moment and meet those needs. So now that you're here, I want you to take a look at one experience that has been coming up for you, that is a strong experience, a challenging experience. Go ahead and bring that up. And as you bring it up, I want you to allow yourself to come into a total state of relaxation and observation. I want you to see the scenario as if you're watching a movie of the event. I want you to see yourself. Observe your body language. Observe your emotions in your body. Observe your reactions. And now shift your perception to any other person that is there with you that you are interacting with, whomever you're interacting with. And just observe without judgment. Go ahead and take your attention back to yourself, to your body. And as you begin to tune into your body, I want you to notice your emotions. Acknowledge all the emotions that start to come up. Notice the part of your body that tenses up when you feel this emotion. So as you begin to notice these emotions, notice which one is the strongest for you. What is the thought that is the strongest? What is the belief that is the strongest in that moment? And I want you to notice this belief if you begin to notice it in other times in your life as well. Take a look. How familiar are you with this belief in your lifetime? Is this something that is repetitive? Something that you've experienced before? Take a look and see. And as you trace that memory back, I want you to see if you can notice the origins of this belief. Where did they come from? What is the origin of this belief in your life? For those of you that are on the Conscious Awakening Network, please join us on my YouTube channel, Geraldine Orozco, and I will see you soon.